around on the front lawn in a pile of leaves with Tommy and Dougie and Ben sitting on the porch. I sat down beside him. While Phoebe went looking for Mary Lou, Ben said, "Phoebe, man, she's driving you crazy, isn't she?" I like the way he looked right in your eyes when he always talked to you. Yes, extensively. I bet Phoebe's lonely. I don't know what came over me, but I almost reached up and just touched Ben's face. My heart was thumping so loudly that I thought he would be able to hear it. I went into the house. From the back window, I watched Mrs. Finney climb a ladder placed against the garage. On the roof, she took off her jacket and spread it out. A few minutes later, Mrs. Finney came around the back of the house, climbed up the ladder. He took off his jacket and spread it out next to her. He just laid on the roof, put his arm around her, and he kissed her. On the roof in the wide open air, they both just laid there kissing. It made me feel peculiar. They reminded me of my parents. I mean, before the stillborn baby, before the operation. Ben came into the kitchen. As he reached into the cupboard for a glass, he stopped and looked at me. Again, I had that odd sensation that I wanted to touch his face. Just on the cheek, in a soft spot. I was afraid my hand just might lift up and drift over to him if I wasn't careful. It was most peculiar. "Guess where Mary Lou is," Phoebe said when she came in. "She's with Alex. She's on a date." I'd never been on a date. Neither, I assume, had Phoebe. So that night at my house, I pulled the sleeping bag out of the closet and spread it on the floor. Phoebe looked as if it was a spider. "Don't worry, Phoebe, I'm the one sleeping in it." I crawled in and pretended to fall asleep immediately. I heard Phoebe get into bed. A little later, my dad came into the room. "Hey, Phoebe, is something wrong?" "No." "Thought I heard someone crying. Are you okay?" "Yes." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Felt bad for Phoebe. I knew I should get up, and try to be nice. But I remembered when I felt like that. And I knew that sometimes you just wanted to be alone with the birds of sadness. Sometimes you just had to cry by yourself. That night I dreamed that I was sitting on the grass peering through a pair of binoculars. Far off, in the distance, my mother was climbing up a ladder. She kept climbing and climbing and climbing. It was a thumpingly tall ladder. She couldn't see me. She never came down. She kept going. Pandora's box. So the next day, as I was helping Phoebe lug her suitcase home, I said, "Phoebe, I know you've been upset, but I have not been upset. Sometimes, Phoebe, I like you a lot, but why, thank you. But sometimes, Phoebe, I actually feel like dumping your cholesterol-free body out the window." She did not have a chance to respond because we were at her house, and she was more interested in besieging her father with questions. "Hey, Dad, any news? Did Mom come back? Did she call?" Sort of. She called Mrs. Cadaver." "Mrs. Cadaver? Why? Why would she?" "Phoebe, calm down. I don't know why she phoned her. I haven't been able to speak to Mrs. Cadaver myself yet. She isn't home. She left a note here." He showed it to Phoebe. Norma called to say she's okay. Beneath Mrs. Cadaver's signature was a P.S. saying that Mrs. Cadaver would be away until Monday. I do not believe that Mom called Mrs. Cadaver. Mrs. Cadaver is making it up. Mrs. Cadaver, she's probably killed her and chopped her up. I'm calling the police. They had a huge argument. But at last, Phoebe fizzled out. Her dad said he'd been calling everyone he could think of to see if Mom had indicated where she might be going. He would continue calling tomorrow. He promised. And he would speak with Mrs. Cadaver. If he did not receive a letter or a direct phone call from her mom by Wednesday, he would call the police. Phoebe came out on the porch with me, and I was leaving. She said, "I have made a decision. I am going to call the police. I might even go to the police station. I don't have to wait until Wednesday. I can do whatever I want." That night, Phoebe phoned me. She was whispering again. "Hey, it seems so quiet here. I don't know what's the matter with me. I was lying on my bed and I can't sleep. My bed's too hard." On Monday, Phoebe gave her oral report of Pandora. She began in a quivering voice. "All right, guys, For some reason, Ben here, he's already talked about my topic, Pandora, when he said his report on Prometheus. However, Ben, he made a few mistakes about Pandora. Everyone turned around and stared at Ben. I did not. Yeah, Ben, you did. You see, Pandora, she was not sent to man as a punishment. She was a reward. Was not. Oh yeah, was too. You see, Zeus decided to give him a present. Since man seemed lonely down there on earth, with only the animals to keep him company, Zeus made a sweet, beautiful woman. And then Zeus, he invited all the gods to dinner. It was a very civilized dinner with matching plates. Mary Lou and Ben exchanged an eyebrow message. So Zeus, he asked the gods to give the woman presents to make her, feel welcome. Phoebe glanced at me. They gave her wonderful things. A fancy shawl, a silver dress, even beauty. Ben interrupted. I thought you said she was already beautiful. They gave her more beauty. Are you satisfied? Her lip was no longer trembling, but she was blushing. So the gods also gave her the ability to sing, the power of persuasion, a gold crown, flowers, and many truly wonderful things like that, because all of these